Huge W, boys. Season 9 just showed us the new artifacts coming our way, and they are looking quite busted. I'm not even joking. These are so good, I might even uninstall out of respect. New builds, absolutely. The dev team has really stepped up the quality of artifacts, so let's jump straight into them. And some of these definitely seem more unique, and with a few interesting passives. So anyways, let's head into our first one here. Plague Herald Mast. This one's a spicy one and felt kind of personal. Abilities and light attacks inflict a 3% disease max 10 seconds, so 30% healing reduction already. That's going to hurt my build and it's going to hurt healers, so that's a sacrifice I am willing to make. You will also gain 1% disease per stack applied at 10 stacks. Heavy attacks stacks trigger a 6-second cloud on the target, inflicting 20% disease and 10% weaken to nearby enemies with a 12-second cooldown. This is basically the healer killer and a life-stealing build killer like myself. This is definitely going to be ran, I think, in wars to reduce healing effectiveness by quite a significant margin. Then was refreshing and freedom here, which are okay perks. And you can choose your third. It comes from the PvP reward track. Overall, I'll give this artifact a solid tier. It seems more like niche. It's not going to be good against every build, but when you verse a life-stealing build, shirking heals build, or a healer, this will be absolutely game changer. Plus, this also does reduce pots, by the way, if you are wondering. That could be quite detrimental for some pot players. But overall, solid. Hammer of Yeet, the Funzy artifact. This one's, I like it. 300% push distance, 10% base damage to all Warhammer knockbacks, and clear ignites the first target hit, turn them into a projectile that deals 100% weapon damage to enemies they pass through. This thing sounds just so fun to use and so random. You're basically hitting home runs non-stop, watching people fly across the map. Maybe they'll enter a portal to Narnia. You'll hit them so far. Who knows where they'll be going? But it will do solid damage. Now, will this be the meta weapon? Probably not, but it's going to be one fun weapon to use and test out. Comes with Sudden Clear Out. Very good perk. This hugely reduces armor of anyone hit by Clear Out. Plague Strikes. Dude, they really want to nerf healers and lifestealing, man. Alternating enchantment. Now, I didn't know what this did, so let me pull that one up. Basic attacks will increase the base damage of the next ability hit within 5 seconds by 10%. Hitting an ability will increase the next damage of the basic attack by 10% for 5 seconds. Thank you, boys, for coming to my TED Talk. So this is a very good enchantment, I think, is very solid. And you can choose a third one, of course. So this will allow you to rotate between lights, heavies, and abilities for maximum DPS. Solid artifact. This one should be really fun. I know a lot of people found this one fun on the PvP server. Crescent Wave, the Moonlight Great Sword. Let's start off with the most interesting perk, I think. 12% base damage to targets further than 10 meters. We'll dive into this a bit later. This one I have a couple comments on. Crescent Wave, the main reason you run this bad boy. While above 50% health, heavy attacks cast a projectile forward, dealing 150 weapon damage. Melee attacks or heavy attacks is reduced by 50% in each wave cost 20 mana. Each wave costing 20 mana, no problem. If you run serums like I do and mana pots, this should be irrelevant basically. This one is huge though. Heavy attacks being reduced by 50%. So a heavy attack on a greatsword does a base of 150% weapon damage. So if you add that to this one, you're doing 225% total weapon damage if they both hit at the same time. Definitely reducing the overall burst window I thought we were going to have. I thought we were just going to walk at the people and start bonking them on the head and one-shotting them. I was very hyped for that. But this does take away a bit of my fun. And it's only procs above 50% HP, which hurts my playstyle, especially as the guy who likes to go solo. If you're in a group and you have a pocket healer on you, a rot priest as I like to call them, you will be fine more than likely, as they will be able to keep you above this 50% threshold. But if you're more of a solo player, this one will definitely hurt you more. Overall, this sounds very interesting and fun to use, as you can start swiping people with a greatsword, and there's no range limit on this. I guess I don't know how far this can actually go, but it sounds fun giving the greatsword a way to attack. Now, the most interesting part about this whole build is this perk. 12% base damage to targets further than 10 meters. Now, it says base damage. Interesting. You got to use the blunderbuss with this thing, no? Like, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling blunderbuss, like getting a hard on. I want to try blunderbuss, Crescent Wave, Greatsword combo in medium and in light. And we're going to cook something fierce. Call me Gordon Ramsay, because we're about to enter that kitchen, dude. And we're about to become the Iron Chef. We're about to see what we can cook. If you guys are interested in that, make sure to stay tuned to my channel, because when the Season 9 drops, we're going to be theory crafting with the Crescent Wave more than any other weapon, because I am a great sword lover and abuser. How about the other 2 perks? Sorting Strikes, this is 7% damage when you have Grit active, and Sundering Stacks. Let me pull this one up as well. Once every 0.5 seconds, attacks inflict a 4% rend, each stack lasting for 6 seconds. What does that passive actually mean? Well, it's good against heavy, it's okay against mediums, and it sucks against light, which is a huge downfall, simply because light players are the majority of people who PvP. Medium is the second most popular, and heavy is the least. So this perk is kind of meh to useless, I would say, as most of them you're fighting light players, and that's not a very useful perk against light players. But this can be attained through the PvP reward track. All of these can actually, which is quite funny. The Vengeance, the artifact that makes me want to smash my keyboard because of how broken it is. Outgoing healing is increased by 25% when not affected by life staff hot effects. When basic attacks pass to allies, they gain 20% stamina regen and 30% mana regen for 3 seconds. This thing is completely busted. Life staffs already heal a crap ton, and when you add a 25% to this is completely busted. And everybody's saying, whoa, but it doesn't affect HOTS. You have Divine Embrace, right? Or Clap. You're just going to see more Divine Embrace and Claps that are going to shoot people from 1000 HP to 15k HP in one clap. How was that not broken? This will completely redefine every life stat build, as now every life stat build will be forced to run Vengeance simply because of how broken it is. Not only from the healing, but the stam and the mana regen for the utility you get from this is also insane. This thing is broken beyond belief, and I don't understand how this got through the patch notes or the PTR or whatever you want to call it. This thing should maybe be 10 to 15% here, max. They can keep this. This is fun. It comes with Keen Beacon. They also reworked this. This release grants increased crit damage instead of crit chance. Solid. This sounds like really good for PvE, especially since you're always critting in PvE if you're hitting the bum of an enemy. If you like smacking that ass, then Keen Beacon is there for you. Refreshing move. The best perk you can have on a life staff. Enchant, it's kind of useless. And then you just would put like Blessed here for increased healing. You can grab this one already, by the way. So if you want Vengeance, I highly recommend it if you're a life staff abuser. Rot Priest. Grab Vengeance right now. You can farm it. This will be ran on every healing build. I can pretty much guarantee that. Grey Wizard Hat. This one is interesting, and I like the spiciness of Grey Wizard Hat here. Let's roll into this one. Quick Casting. While above 50% mana, magic, weapons, range, heavy attacks charge 25% faster. This is a really good idea, and I love something that actually changes mechanics in the game. And I do love the idea behind this. Now, is this good? I think it's aight to low tier. This will not replace tumblers. This will not replace featherweight. This will not replace those haste boots. Those are all just better than this. If this was 50%, I think this might be broken, especially when paired with the fire staff, because the fire staff gets cooldown reduction based on heavy attacks. And that is the primary reason why this is only 25%. I would guess is they're too afraid this would be completely overpowered with the fire staff. That is the main reason. But let's be honest. The only weapon that really gets any advantage out of reduced heavy attacks speed or increased heavy attack speed is the fire staff. The ice gun, you can make some arguments. Maybe the voice staff a little bit, but mainly the fire staff, right? And if they increase this too high, this is too broken, which I can understand. They don't want this to be completely overpowered. As in my opinion, fire staff is the best range weapon in the game right now, and it needs a nerf. And I'm surprised that the New World devs haven't nerfed that. And I feel like that confirms every New World dev or balance team member plays mage, dude. Like, I'm convinced. Like, how is this fire staff not been nerfed? But anyways, I think it should be around 35% or 40%, and then we can start talking if it's getting too OP. Refreshing, okay perk. Physical version, terrible. Elemental version is just 10 times better. And you get to choose your third perk, so like Shirking Heals or whatever you want can go there. Or a weapon armor perk. This also, you can get this one right now. This comes from the PvP track though. You can also get Creed right now. You can get these 3 artifacts right now. So if any of these look interesting to you, go farm them right now as they're available. Creed. This one is very ESO inspired. Probably the most probably the most Elder Scrolls Online inspired artifact I've seen in the game. Backstab and headshots deal 20% increased crit damage and apply 10% weaken for 5 seconds. You also gain 10% in power and crit chance for 5 seconds. Targets cannot be ambushed again for 15 seconds. So let's take a step back and what does this actually mean? This one's pretty interesting. A lot of numbers here to work. So the headshot thing, you can definitely abuse this very easily with ranged weapons if you are a god at headshots, which I am not. I would imagine most people who play the game are not. This will be very hard to keep high uptime on. This does have a long downtime of 10 seconds. And if you're against the same target, I would imagine it's at least another 5 seconds until you can headshot them again. If you are a really good player, not to mention if you're like, you know, above average to average player, like it will probably take you around 25 to 30 seconds to get that headshot. So this will have an insanely high downtime, making this basically useless to everyone that's not a god tier player for the headshot part of the artifact. It does have a lot of damage bonuses. You do have a huge window where you absolutely pump. I can definitely see this more used as, instead of a ranged weapon artifact, but a melee artifact. Coming in with the SNS hatchet type build. That is much easier to get back stabs on, where you have an insanely high window. 5 seconds to one-shot your opponent. So that is what I can see Creed being used for. Is for those light assassin builds for melee. Besides that, I don't really see it being used anywhere else, as it's not good enough. The uptime is just not high enough. The headshot nature is just too hard to get. But in terms of light melee builds, this could be very good. Or it could be mid. I think this one needs a bit more testing to see how strong this could be with light melee builds. But you definitely will, if you're ever getting one shot when the next patch comes, they're probably running Creed, because these damage buffs are nasty for a light melee build. And then they're reworking the hammer artifact, which is actually interesting. I didn't know this was a hammer. 25% lifesteal to not just knock down enemies, but stun, rooted, and sluggish targets. This sounds like a really fun artifact now to mess around with. The main reason I never touch this is because knockdown is too hard to get. But with stun, rooted, and sluggish, this can be combined with the hatchet, this can be combined with the spear, this can be combined with SNS, and you still should, in theory, get this huge lifesteal, making for some really fun builds. I'm gonna keep it 100, dude. This sounds really fun to mess around. This is my second favorite artifact now. I want to try in the new patch. I want to run Blood Drinker with this, get like SNS or hatchet, and just start going to town. Even technically, Greatsword can use this with the root from Relentless Freedom, but I think that's too niche. Sounds really fun to use. Let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite artifact that we've covered today? What you think is the most broken artifact? Personally, I think Vengeance will get nerfed. This thing is just completely overpowered, simply because Life Staff is already the best weapon in the entire game, and giving them a really good artifact is completely broken in my opinion. That you have to nerf Life Staff, man. Like this is getting out of hand. They're trying to do indirect nerfs by adding stuff like this into the game, but it's just not enough, as most people don't run healing reduction builds and OPR 3v3s. And let me know which artifact you guys are most excited to try. Mine is definitely Crescent Wave, and I'll see you down the sewer, boys. Be sure to like and subscribe. Peace.